Hi, welcome to Fighting Talk. I'm Kudo Mal. I'm on a mission to spread the news of Kudo in the UK, but also the benefits of being a martial artist. This is our very first interview, and it's with Ben Richards from the Gojen and Kudo Academy. Ben attends Kudo and has to face a visual impairment. Let's have a chat with Ben. Clubs here, Ben. Yeah, so Ben's the first victim on this, so this could be good or it could be bad. It could be interesting for you or not, so we'll see how it goes. Right, so do you have your beverage?
Of course.
Awesome. Take a look at my cup. Look, you know, it's Lionel Rich tea. Is it tea you're looking for?
Much more appropriate than mine.
Present for my daughter, so I'm well happy with that. Well, that's the lodger. And then you need to have something on from the club. So Gojen or Kudo, you got the Gojen and Kudo hat.
And
the Gojen, the traditional very first one. And look at that bad boy there. Yeah, that was not my nipples.
How we've changed.
Yeah. So we tried this earlier. Actually, this T-shirt was a gift from the Ukrainian team when we were out in France. So you're definitely going to go rent sometime. Yeah.
I was hoping for this year, but after everything that's happened, obviously that's looking unlikely like we'll get anywhere. So
I mean, Fabrice does a cracking job with Ren Camp, and everybody was devastated. So, but it'll be on next year, and we can get out there and support and represent Wales as we do. So, first things first. Did you check out the Baz Rutten interview last night with Chris Hansen?
Indeed, that was excellent. Can't fault it.
And it was great to get a mention. I was trying to get Chris to just ask about, because he's a legend, right?
Yeah.
And I thought Chris managed himself really well, considering he was talking to the main man himself, and he didn't know what Kudo was, but he knows what a headbutt is.
Yeah, which we'll take that.
Yeah, definitely. Right. So these conversations or these chats really between the guys in the club and the girls, depending on who wants to get involved. We'll talk a bit more about that later. But we're going to be talking about like subjects that are either close to our hearts in the club or motivating factors, or what actually other people think about people in the club. And you are one of our biggest inspirations in the club because of what you have to put yourself through to be able to come to the club in the first place. The support that you give everybody, and including your son, we'll come back to that again in the conversation. But it's true that to say that you're actually legally blind, registered blind. Is that true?
Yeah. Well, I was diagnosed at 3 months old with a form of albinism called oculocutaneous, which is type 1 albinism, really.
Yeah.
And it's the one that affects your eyes, your hair, your skin. So it's a genetic condition. And I've been registered with sight loss from around 3 months. I wouldn't know exactly. My dad would know more, but very early on. And I have several conditions that obviously make it difficult to see. I have nystagmus, which means my eyes do circles on their own, involuntary movements, which means anything sort of further than 3 foot's blurry. Yeah. I'm short-sighted as well. I can see close, but not the long distances.
Yeah.
I also have astigmatism, which means the way the light goes into my eyes is different.
Yeah.
And that causes sort of minor issues as well.
Yeah.
And I have photophobia, which means I have a real sensitivity to light, which to be honest you'd expect with albinism, but the combination of it all leaves me with quite severely reduced vision. I mean, on a scale, sort of if you can see 60 meters, I can see about 3. That's not a clear 3, but it's a 3 as in I can see shapes at 3. But it's one of those things. I'm fortunate enough that I was, as bad as it sounds, born with a condition, which has given me that motivation and push to just adapt. And I never really knew till I was older that you had anything wrong with you. Primary school, you're just a kid, aren't you? You do like everyone else. Nobody knows. So, it's something that really has probably shaped who I am today, to be honest.
Well, I mean, a lot of guys, there's a lot of banter, across all the guys in the club.
Gotta be. Don't take yourself too seriously.
Well, and that's our theme, right? None of us take ourselves with it. So, and I think a couple of the funniest things, I mean, you just mentioned about, the eyes and you know, where we've been on camps and things, and then you use that as a bit of your party trick, don't you? Take a look at this.
Oh yeah, look at me.
And you know, obviously it's quite, for us, it's quite difficult because you don't know whether you're meant to laugh or, you know, how you feel. But you know, you've embraced it, and you've taught us so much. You know,
I'm a firm believer that you need to be positive and be able to have a laugh about yourself, regardless of your problems or disadvantages.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, if I can't have a laugh about myself, then who around me can have a laugh with me?
Yeah,
so
definitely.
I'm a firm believer in, look, when you're having a laugh, anything's on the table. Yeah. It's all for fun and games. And that's how it should be, because that is how you get those bonds that enable people to sort of, you know, produce the family life that we have in our club, is because we can have that friendship and the relationship together.
Well, I think we you know, you've said that you feel lucky to be part of the club, and we feel lucky for you to be in the club, right? But, you know, and not everybody gets to have a chat with you in the club. So I feel quite privileged that we've had quite long conversations about, you know, what we're talking about right now. But you know, can you kind of talk a little bit about what your limitations are, you know, in life, and, you know, does any of that transfer across to the club, you know, and when you have to do that?
There's obviously certain aspects of my life that are more difficult. For instance, traveling has always been a problem. I'll catch the wrong bus, get on the wrong train, but that's just something you learn to live with and have a joke about. Yeah. I got no problem in asking for help, and that's one thing I think people with disabilities need to be able to be like, is have that confidence, not be ashamed. Yeah. Because that, to be honest with you, helps me more than most things in life. Yeah. Cooking's obviously a problem. I burn myself all the time, but I still do it. Life be life. You know, things like shaving is a problem. I do go to work with the odd strip that I've missed. That doesn't always go down too well, but it can't be helped. It's kind of accepted nowadays. So, and there are a lot of limitations on, to be honest with you, a lot of small things like looking at, you don't realize how much we use screens this day and age. Yeah. I can't use them because I suffer with dry eye problems, which is just another issue. Yeah. So staring at screens all day for me, and unfortunately it's slightly part of my job, but for long periods, you know, that becomes a problem. Yeah. It impacts on every aspect of my life, if I'm honest with you. Yeah, of course. I am fortunate enough, as I say, to have been born with it. So I've learned to adapt, and I've learned to get on with it and not necessarily let those things hold me back. They could do, you know, I'll be honest with you. I've got friends who I know who are visually impaired who are both ends of the scale. Right. You know, some are extremely independent like myself. Yeah, others are in a totally different position, and that is very dependent, in my opinion, on how you were brought up as well. My dad was very much get out there and do it. If you fall down, you get back up. Yeah. You can fall down 20 times, it doesn't matter. Yeah. And I've always had that approach. So. And you broke a lot of bones, right? Oh, when I was young, I mean, I've done sports like inline skating, and I was actually reasonably good for a guy who can't see more than 3 foot. I mean, I could do all the ramps, and I used to jump like 12 sets of stairs. Yeah, I've broke arms. I've knocked my teeth out. I've done loads. Legs I've had dislocated and broken. Yeah. But I mean, you develop from those risks, and without taking those risks, I wouldn't be able to be the person I am today. And I think that's what makes it worth it. Well, without a doubt, you know, I mean, what I was going to lead into really is that, you know, you practice the karate and you practice the kudo, right? And, you know, when you walk through the door and you're explaining the difficulties that you're having, you know, the first time for me really to be trying to teach a class and try and take everybody's needs in, you know, when you're teaching. And, you know, like you were talking to me about like the difficulties. What are the difficulties for somebody that's visually impaired when you kind of stood in a line with a load of other martial artists? I'll be honest, at first it was probably really daunting at the beginning, simply because I knew it involved a lot of visual learning, which is obviously initially going to be something that's going to be a slight barrier. But I just made sure, you know, I would try and stand as close as possible to yourself or whoever was teaching the class, which enabled me to be able to see as much as possible. And obviously through not letting that be a problem in the long run and committing and just carrying on, you know, you learn how the class is run, you learn instructions, you learn what we're doing and the commands and what things mean. So you learn to not have to necessarily look. Of course, you have the odd glance, everyone does now and then, but, you know, I have picked up on the language enough to be able to find that as a way to not have to look. And actually, I think that's a positive, because I'm not having to always go off direct visuals. I can kind of just go off cues. And I think, admittedly, I mean, earlier days in my training, that would have been less so, but I think I'm getting to a much better point where I can listen to the instructions and react off them, much like a corner would do in an actual competition. And I think my competition results have showed that as they've grown through I'm learning to be able to listen. So I think to anybody who, you know, is thinking that will be a barrier, like, no, get stuck in. You'll find ways to adapt, and that's any disability. And also, everybody I found, especially in traditional martial arts and a lot of the stuff we believe in, you know, everyone's accommodating and respectful, and they will help you to grow, to bring your level higher, and they will never put you in a position to make you feel like you're going down. And that's one thing that's kept me in the club. You know, I've always had that support and that friendships that have continued to make me grow. And I think from the 7 years I've been doing it, I think I've massive strides, you know?
Yeah, definitely. And, you know, like hopefully people start to get used to what Kudo is, and then they'll look it up and so on. You know, so you got your grappling elements, you know, whether that kind of be wrestling, standing or ground, you know, submission type work. And then you get your striking. Close quarter striking is a different game with Kudo, obviously, with the headbutts and the elbows and all the rest of that sort of stuff. So, you know, I've always been really kind of curious for this one. And, you know, we have started talking about this, but for somebody that's visually impaired, right, when I can't see, so in other words, when we wear those head guards, there's usually two issues, right? One is obviously the breathing, because it's like altitude training, because you're confined, which is not great for me with the asthma. So I want to stay as far away as possible to be able to regulate my breathing and strike, because as soon as you get in close, it becomes very, very hard to breathe with those on. And the other part of it is if you breathe too hard, it steams up. So I'm thinking Ben has got this issue all of the time, right? So when it steams up and I can't see my opponent, I'm thinking I'm going to throw a couple of shots. So there's my wife in the background sneaking in. That was really slick, like a ninja.
Quieter than mine was a few moments ago, I can tell you that.
So, you know, I'm thinking, right, I'm just going to have to get in there and use the other senses. If I can't see that well, I'm going to grab and I'm going to do that. So I'm kind of almost teaching you in that way to think, right, well, get in, throw in a couple, get in, and then do the rest of it. And you just seem to go against that because you love the striking so much. So, I mean, like you fly through the air, you know, there's times I'm kicking. You defy logic. It was like Mortal Kombat in the Kyokushin competition where you're trying to take people's heads off. And, you know, when you're in on the Kudo competition. So tell me about that. What is that? You know, what is your game? What's your thought with the head guard? And
you know, yeah, you're right. I do see like that every day as such. And of course, like I'm not going to lie. Look, I probably get hit more than I hit, but I enjoy that test. You know, to me, it's about reality, and it's about if this happens to me in a real life situation, if I'm out with my children, or if somebody comes into my house, how do I know I'm capable as a man with a slight disadvantage of looking after myself and my family? It needs to be reality. I'm not, you know, I'm one of them people that, to me, it has to be real. And focusing on the striking, it's just one of those things. I just get an absolute adrenaline out of it. And I enjoy the strategy. I mean, people look at striking and think it's just barbaric a lot of the time. And I've got a completely different mindset on that. I'm much more strategic, and I like to think of it as like it's almost a game to me. And I think you'll see that in the way I fight. And you're right, I don't just use my eyes. When I'm fighting, I'm listening. I'm almost, it sounds a bit lunatic sometimes, but I'm feeling the energy of people, you know? I'm thinking, when are you going to move? I'm feeling every reaction I can feel that somebody's giving me to think, when are they going to strike and where's it coming from? And in a way, okay, there's a negative, of course. I do eat a good few shots. Yeah, that's fine. Fortunately, I've eaten a few and taken them okay so far. Sure, that won't be forever.
Let me jump in here a minute, Ben, because I mean, like you've not entered since you've been in the club one competition or one category that's been able to be balanced out for disability. You know, it's been able-bodied categories right the way through what you were doing. Even that time, like I was telling you earlier about my favorite memory was when you were fighting in the Kyokushin competition. And, you know, it was ridiculously close. I mean, you said that you thought you won it. I think we thought that you won it. I mean, we were the Kudo guys in a Kyokushin competition. So, the home advantage is always going to be a factor. And that's why I love Kudo so much, because it's either knockout or submission. If it goes to the refs, you've got to accept it. You could get a loss. But, you know, you kind of were there. And then afterwards, when the guy was kind of gloating a little bit about his win, and I told him the guy who fought is blind, he didn't believe it anyway. He went around checking with everybody. But you could see, first it was, oh my God, I just like, he what? And you could see the total respect for you that he couldn't get it through his head. And when he did, because he was like almost starting to feel that kind of sympathy. Do you know what I mean? I fought a blind guy, and then he was conflicted. He was like, no, but the guy was kicking trying to kick my head off. So I don't care if he's blind or not. So, I mean, that equality, we got to take our hat off to you, and everybody holds a lot of respect for you and the way you throw yourself in there, and your grading, and so on and so on, right? And like the way you were talking about fighting, it sounds like a bit of a superhero. And I know you're like that for Eli, you're your boy, you know, because when he watched his dad battle, you know, he's got that experience for life. Because you always feel like you're losing, right, when you're fighting, no matter what you're doing. You always feel like you're receiving. So, but I seen your son's face. He was lit up. Amazing. And that's important to you, isn't it? The equality of your understanding of whether you can fight for real, yeah?
Yeah. I mean, look, I stand by. I still think I won that fight. I don't care. But it is what it is, as you say.
Yeah.
And look, I'm honest about it. Especially with Kyokushin. I mean, for me, that's almost throwing myself in water where I can't swim.
Yeah.
Close fighting combat of striking, I can't. You know, I was just hitting elbows for weeks, and it was hard work.
Yeah.
And that's always going to be my weakness. But to me, you have to combat those weaknesses to improve.
Yeah.
So I like to challenge things head on, you know. And I think, okay, I could grapple with people, and I think I'm a relatively decent grappler.
Yeah.
But that almost puts me off, because I think, well, my weakness is striking, and I want to show people I can strike, and I want to know myself I can strike.
Yeah.
For me, it's not for anyone else. You know, I'm competing against me, and it has to be realistic. And it's like you said about the rule sets. Well, I have nothing against Paralympic judo or any of that, and I'm all for it. That's fair enough. But for me individually, like, it just doesn't really make sense in the reality of it. I need to know, and I want to know, that if I get in a bad situation, that I can actually fight, you know, near enough just bare knuckle fighting. That's the truth of it.
Yeah.
I'm not looking to be stood in front of someone, you hold on and you both start.
Yeah.
I mean, I understand why they do it, but for me, it's just, personally, it's not for me.
Yeah.
I would have a go. I'd have a go at anything, as we know. But I just think, you know, for the reality aspect, and martial arts is more than just the competing. I love the competition. Don't get me wrong. We all know that.
Yeah.
But it is more than that, and that's, you know, it's outside of this. If I'm on the way home from work, I mean, I use a cane walking around, and I always think that draws attention to me. So I always feel like, well, I need to know that if that attention goes wrong, can I look after myself?
Exactly. Yeah.
I've had incidents where I've lost fights happily. There's no point lying about it. I've been beat up on the street.
We all have.
Yeah,
we all have.
Been hit with weapons, and that almost gave me the fire to want to develop myself and progress. To be able to just challenge myself, and it's even more than that. Even in your career, martial arts help you progress everywhere. You know.
Yeah.
My confidence and the connection with myself through martial arts has improved dramatically, and the competitions do that for you. And I'm a firm believer in, you know, pushing yourself to those top limits just improves you as a person and that relationship you have. And as you say, I'll be honest with you. Look, if when I come off the mat, and if I lose on points, I lose on points. I can completely live with that. I think outpointing people isn't my mission. My aim when I compete is to go on there, defend myself effectively, do the best I can to hurt people, of course, but I'm there to be practical, to defend myself, and to not come away with damage myself.
Yeah.
You know.
What I love about that, Ben, is that what you were saying were you know, like I've been pushing Kudo, right? And the reason I've been pushing Kudo is because in the UK, it's not well known. In lots of places around the world, it's not well known. But I think it offers so many different things to so many different people. Like for yourself, for instance, you know, you wouldn't be able to go to an MMA class at the risk of what could happen, you know, further damage to your eyes or a soft tissue and damage like that. To be able to fight on this, you wouldn't be able to do it. But with the head guard, it facilitates that, doesn't it?
Yeah,
you know,
exactly.
But you, when you were talking about the benefits of martial arts to yourself, you know, to help you get past disability or an impairment, and how that affects your life and your career and all the rest of it. And I, you know, to give Chris Hansen a plug, I mean, that's what his Karate Unity is all about. You know, I first thought it was just about people in karate, you know, but it's not. He's trying to unify everybody under that. And, you know, if you've got somebody out there, right, that maybe is listening because maybe their eyesight is worse than yours, yeah, or maybe it's not as bad, or, you know, maybe they have a different disability, you know, and I hear able-bodied people, right, say, oh, I wish I could fight somebody, you know, my weight or my height, or, you know, I've not heard once when you're talking about this, that those things even come in, you know, because you fought everybody, you know, that's in front of you, like all of the guys there, because the things that you're trying to achieve are bigger than just like even playing grounds, isn't it? You know? So what advice would you give to somebody with an impairment or a disability that wanted to go into a martial art, not Kudo, not necessarily karate, but any martial art? What assessments should they make before choosing which club they go to?
Like my first thing would be, do it regardless. Majority of martial arts will give you that family belonging. They will give you that support network, and they will give you, you know, discipline in your life. They will give you the opportunity to progress, and they will help you be disciplined to do that. I mean, if you look at where I've come from 7 years ago, 22-year-old, jobless. I mean, now my career, since being part of the club, I've ended up being self-employed. I'm now full-time employed. I'm earning good money. And that's because of the growth of a person that I've had in all aspects of my life. And martial arts is a major part of that. Anyone with a disability, like, don't be scared. People will accommodate you and will attain to your needs to make it respectful and enjoyable. Yeah. But they will also put you out of your comfort zone and push your limits to develop you as a person and make you a better person. I'd advise anyone to get stuck in any form of martial art, to be honest, because they all have benefits. I'm a firm believer every martial art has positive aspects.
Yeah. So what's the main like about the club, right? So joining the martial arts easy enough, right? They're everywhere, you know. You these days you don't have to go more than 5 miles and you'll find a club, right? So what do you think are the key factors of a club that make you to continue as somebody that's got a visual impairment?
Personally, there's a few things that I think are a positive, especially about our club. I'd say it's not huge, and that is a positive.
Yeah.
Small numbers means better quality teaching, more interaction as such. I mean, you know, we have a good bond as a team.
Yeah.
And I think, you know, you go to these big clubs with 150 people, personally, it's a personal experience.
Yeah, of course, and that's why I'm asking.
Don't see how they have the same bond that we have as a club, because you can't have this one-to-one interaction on a weekly basis if you've got 100 people in a massive hall. So I would say to people with a disability, I'd look for small local clubs with instructors with credibility, of course. Look for people who've traveled, look for people who've, you know, got good connections with different countries, even different martial arts, people who are open-minded. Don't go to people who are narrow-minded, it's their way only. You know, you want somebody who's honest and open, because the thing is with a disability is they're going to have to be open-minded to be able to train you adequately anyway. Yeah. So if they're not looking outside of their own art to see the faults, they're probably not going to look any further for you to improve you either. So
that's spot on. I you know, like I work with children with all sorts of different disabilities, and to be honest, the one rule I learned was not to look for the disability or look at the disabilities, to look for ability, and just focus on the ability, because they'll help you with all the rest of it. You put that eloquently. Thanks very much, Ben. Right.
No problem.
All these interviews or chats, whatever this is, bromance or natter and chatted and all the rest of it. At the end of it, I've got 10 questions, and they're one-word answers. Okay. And I'll only accept the first answer, right?
Okay.
So as and all the rest of it. Right then, ready? You ready then? Here we go. First one. Name one thing you would refuse to share.
Toilet.
Okay, 2. If you could fight anyone, who would it be?
Oh, Anderson Silva.
Oh, wicked. Okay, 3. Name one person you wouldn't fight.
Francis Ngannou.
Okay, 4. What's your signature dance move?
Probably the cha-cha slide.
Awesome. What's your dream job?
MMA fighter.
Yeah, awesome. I hope Kim's going to be all right with this one. Who's your childhood crush?
Oh, Hilary Duff, man. All day. When I was a kid, all day.
Amazing. Okay, current man crush.
No, probably still Bruce Lee, probably.
Bruce Lee. Okay.
Classic. Yes. Can't go wrong.
Okay. Favorite martial art movie?
Ip Man.
Ip Man. Okay. Quick one.
Yep.
What do cows drink?
Water.
Ah, quick one, right?
Is that right?
Yeah. It's one of those cows drink milk. No, they don't.
Yes.
Okay. All right. And the last one is a nomination, right? So who do you want for me to chat to next?
Okay.
Who's it going to be?
Carl
Butler.
Yeah.
Okay, okay. Carl's next on the list.
Nominated, mate.
Fighting talk, Carl. Fighting talk. Okay. Right, Ben. Thanks for that. That's amazing.
No problem.
Thanks from everybody at the club. I hope everybody's fine and safe in the household. Thanks for keeping supporting the club.
Thanks for having me.
Time, and we're fully aiming to still be there when this is all finished. So love to all the family. See you soon, my friend.
Same to you. Take care, guys.
Take care, dude. Cheers. Jungle.